Hello everyone, welcome to the GazWeapons.com Winter 2017-18 forecast evaluations. So we are now into the spring of 2018. Winter ended a few days ago, and we've been waiting for the stats to update at the UK Met Office, so we can see exactly how things panned out for the winter of 2017-18 in terms of temperature and precipitation set against the GazService.com winter 17-18 forecast that we released on the 3rd of December. So the forecast was quite an interesting forecast because we predicted a colder winter. Now, within that, there was quite a big range of possibilities. So at one end of the extreme, we was predicting a very cold winter, at the very coldest end of our sort of swingometer, if you like. The very far end on one side was a very cold winter. At the other extreme was sort of an average type winter against the 30-year long-term temperature average. That's right, the mildest range of outcome. And in the middle, I suppose the pendulum was kind of like centred on a slightly colder than average winter. Because there was such a big range, he wasn't particularly confident between any of those outcomes, although the central predictions say it was very slightly colder than average winter. But we did say that whether it comes out at the very colder end of the range, or whether it comes out at just average, at the mildest range of the outcome, it would likely be a colder winter. So it would be colder than any winter we've experienced since 2012-2013, and a greater incidence of snow than any winter since 2012-2013 as well. We was also expecting a sudden stratospheric warming, and we said that if we had one of those, then the winter could potentially turn very cold. There was the potential there to set up a very cold spell of weather. Precipitation-wise, we forecast sort of average precipitation. The general idea was coldest earliest in the winter. January was a real joker in the pack, and then we expected, with low confidence, that February would probably be a more unsettled, Atlantic-driven type month. So let's go through and see how this all panned out. So we're going to have a look at temperatures first of all. This is the winter 2017-18 mean temperature anomaly set against 61 to 1990 averages, the old and cold decade of the 1960s through to the 1990s. So this is the old and cold temperature average. And this is how the winter of 2017-18 looks, set against 61 to 1990. So, but we see that for southern parts of the country, we actually come out with a slightly milder than average winter set against 61 to 1990. But for Scotland, Northern Ireland, and Northern England, we're actually coming out with average temperatures there. Now, what I want to do is show you how that compares to all winters back to 12-13. So this is how the winter of 16-17 looks, and that was a very mild winter. All parts of the country had significantly above average temperatures, particularly so for Scotland, where the winter of 2016-17 comes out over 2 degrees above average. This is 2015-16, and again, it's a very warm winter, especially warm in December of 2015 as well. So this past winter, 17-18, has been cooler than the past two winters. This is 2014-15, and you'll see that was slightly above average for most parts of the country, set against 61 to 99. So again, we see that the winter of 17-18 was cooler than that winter. This is 13-14, and again, very, very mild winter set against 61 to 1990 in 13-14. And then this is 2012-2013, coming out with average temperatures. And the winter of 17-18 has not been as cool as 2012-2013, which is kind of like we didn't really expect it to be, but it was the coolest winter since 2012-2013, and that was one of our key predictions. So that very much came off. Now, if we set the winter of 1718 against the more modern temperature average, which is 81 to 2010, this is how it looks, and it's a cooler anomaly most parts of the country. So actually, Scotland and Northern Ireland come out with a slightly colder than average winter, generally. England and Wales coming out with an average temperature. And of course, that was within the range of our outcomes for this winter. We said we would be anywhere from an average winter to a very cold winter, with a central prediction of slightly colder than average. Actually, we do see a slightly colder than average winter to the north. In the south, it's closer to average. So if we use 81 to 2010 as our 30-year sort of 30-year anomaly, if you like, then the winter forecast is even better. Comes out within the range that we was predicting. Again, let's look back at the past winters. So this is winter of 16-17. Again, that was a warm winter set against 81 to 2010, particularly so in the north. This is winter of 2015-2016. Again, significantly warmer than average, especially so for England and Wales. This is 2014-15. So this one, set against 81 to 2010, was just average across the whole country. But actually, the winter we've just experienced, 17-18, was a little bit colder than this winter for the north. Remember, there was blue across Scotland and Northern Ireland, cold and average temperature anomalies for this past winter. We don't have that in 14-15. This is 13-14, and again, very much significantly warmer than average for that winter, set against 81-2010. And then this is 2012-2013, and again, it's colder than the 61 to 1990 temperature average. So 12-13 is actually colder than average winter for much of England and Wales, set against 81 to 2010. And the reason for that is just that 81 to 2010 is a warmer overall temperature series, temperature average, whereas 61 to 1990 is colder because it contains that very cold decade of the 1960s. And really, we should be using 81 to 2010. In fact, I'm probably very soon going to stop showing 61 to 99, because I think increasingly it's almost irrelevant for the sort of modern climate. So you have to let me know what you think through the comments. Do you want me to carry on including both temperature series, or should we just now move to 81 to 2010? I'm not sure why the UK Met Office and the World Meteorological Organisation haven't moved definitively to 81 to 2010. Yeah, the trouble is with doing that, the CET, which we use a lot in the videos because it's a rolling temperature average, so we can keep an eye on it on a day-by-day basis, and that's still using 61 to 1990. But really, we should all have moved, UK Met Office included, over definitively to 81 to 2010. So let me know what you think, whether you want me to carry on including both temperature series, or just focus specifically on 81 to 2010. Anyway, the upshot is, whether it's 61 to 1990 or 81 to 2010, we see that we have had our coldest winter since the winter of 2012-2013, which is one of the key predictions that we had when we issued the forecast. So it has been a colder winter. It has been the coldest winter since 81 to since 2012-2013. So that side of things has gone quite well. This is how December's temperature anomaly shaped up. So it was sort of average temperatures in the north, a little bit milder than average some parts of the south and the southwest. Not a big temperature deviation. That's set against 61 to 1990. But if we set it against the more modern average of 81 to 2010, you see that it's a slightly cooler signal in December. Let's have a look at January's temperature anomaly. So January comes out milder than average if we set it against 61 to 1990 across England and Wales. For Scotland and Northern Ireland, it comes out near normal. If we set it against 81 2010, it's only slightly milder than average for England and Wales, and it's actually a colder than average month for Scotland. So you see what a difference it makes depending on which temperature series we're looking at. And then this is February. So February set against 61 to 990 comes out average to colder than average. Coldest anomalies across eastern England, in the southwest, and also across Northern Ireland. But if we set it against 81 to 2010, we come out with a substantially colder than average month. It's a much colder than average month if we set it against 81 to 2010, with eastern parts of the country almost 2 degrees colder than average, so very substantially colder than average February. I'm not sure if that side of the forecast went terribly well, because we thought that February was likely, out of the 3 winter months, was probably likeliest to be the mildest winter, although the mildest month of winter, although there was a lot of uncertainty about February. So I'll talk about that a little bit when I review the analogues, which I'm going to do in a moment. In terms of rainfall, that side of the forecast didn't go too badly either. We see a lot of regional variation. So eastern parts of Scotland, eastern parts of England come out with a slightly drier than average month, set against 61 to 1990. East Anglia comes out with a wetter than average month. Quite interesting, as does parts of Northern Ireland and western and southwestern Scotland too. Set against 81 to 2010, we see that, again, East Anglia is coming out with a wetter than average month, as is parts of Northern Ireland. I think a lot of this could be down to snow in the final days of February, quite interestingly. For Scotland, northeastern parts, I mean, generally the north, in general, actually, it's drier than average. We said there shouldn't be a great deviation either way for precipitation. We thought perhaps around average, with a drier earlier part and a wetter later part offsetting one another. But we didn't expect a big deviation either way, and I think that's what we see there. So on the rainfall side of things, on the precipitation side of things, I think it's gone quite well as well, the forecast. So let's have a look at December then. This was our December analogue that we was working towards within the winter forecast. Remember, when we came to produce the winter forecast, what we did is we took all of the elements we've been looking at, so throughout winter updates, starting at the beginning of September and running to the end of November, we looked at various things. We looked at ENSO, we looked at solar activity, we looked at the QBO, the quasi-biennial oscillation, and several other factors as well, Atlantic hurricane activity. And then through the analogues, we put it all together at the end, and we created the best matches for 2017, for winter of 2017-2018. And this is how the analogues, putting all of our methodology together, came out, the best matches for December. So December was expected to be quite a blocked month, with a blocking feature somewhere around the north. I mean, we're centering it here on the analogue around Greenland, but bear in mind, within these analogues, the blocking will be centered in varying places. So the mean sort of position of the block will be around Greenland, but sort of northern blocking generally is what we was looking for in December, with an area of below average heights to our south and to our east. So essentially a cold signal overall for December. This is how we actually came out in terms of the reanalysis for December 2017 in terms of the 500 millibar height anomaly. So we do see that there is a blocking signal there. We have got a lot of above average heights going on to our north. It's not especially centered around Greenland, although there is sort of the ridge here through the middle part of the Atlantic. And then the trough, instead of being to our southeast, is actually more centered over Scandinavia and to our east, which means we do have a little bit of an Atlantic influence. And that's the reason it wasn't a very cold month, although we never really expected a very cold spell of weather, a very cold month within the winter. I think we did expect them to be a little bit colder when it came out, nonetheless. But anyway, that's how the reanalysis for December 2017 looks, set against our analogue. This is January's analogue. So for January, we was really on a knife edge, we thought, because we was focusing. Again, we did have a blocking feature, and the main position within our analogues was essentially in that block between Iceland and Greenland, with below average heights to our south. So we said January could go either way, really. If the block was strong, if we had, for example, an early southern stratospheric warming that made the block strong, then January has the potential to be quite a cold month. If the trough is stronger than the blocking mode, we said, we could actually come away with quite a mildish and fairly wet month in January. So that's how our analogues looked for January. This is what we actually came out with for January. So we did get that area of below average heights very close to the UK. We did have a blocking signal as well. We have above average heights going on up here, generally to the north of Scandinavia. We also have quite a strong ridge in the middle of the Atlantic, which does leave us with more of an Atlantic-driven flow. So essentially what happened in January is what we said it was a possibility that the trough, the low pressure and the Atlantic, would be stronger than the blocking feature. That was a possibility. That was always showing up as a potential scenario within the winter 17-18 forecast. And then we come to February. And this is how the analogues for February were looking. So it looked like it was going to be a very unsettled month in February, with below average heights centred very close to the UK, almost over the UK, and to our south as well. A southerly tracking jet stream was implied. It looks like there is a trough within the 500 millibar flow, if you like, a dip within the 500 millibar flow that we had there in February. Just a very unsettled looking signal. We was a bit unsure about February because we said if the stratospheric warming happened later, then there was the potential for February to be quite a lot colder than this is showing. And that is indeed how it came out, because this is what we see with our reanalysis for February 2018. This has just been sent over by James Ackland. And again, a big thank you to James for all of the analogues that were produced through the winter updates. I think the analogues have certainly made the whole process of the long-range forecasts, and particularly the winter updates, even more fascinating than they were in any case. I think we are really pushing the boundaries now of long-range forecasting in terms of being able to put all of the methodology together and create a visual representation of what that methodology is saying through the analogues. So again, as always, big thank you to James for all of his efforts with winter forecasts and with the long-range forecast generally at Gazovitz. So this is a reanalysis for February 2018. And we have that area of below average heights very close to the UK. Also extends up here. So you can see there was a dip within the 500 millibar flow. We're doing something like that. We also have a blocking feature up to the north, and that comes on the scene particularly late on in the month. So we had the southern stratospheric warming on the 12th of February, and it took a little while for that to filter down and affect the troposphere, but eventually, towards the end of the month, final week of the month, we did get that huge Scandinavian high setting up, and we unleashed the beast from the east. So it was quite interesting that the coldest weather this winter occurred at the end of the winter and into the first days of the spring as well. So this is how, put it all together, this is how the analogue looked for the winter of 2017-18, when we put all of that together, this is what we came out with for our winter analog, and it was showing up the potential for a colder winter, and that's why we went with that forecast. We have an area below average heights to our south, we have a ridge of above average heights to the north, so the jet stream is generally pushed southwards, and so we predicted a colder winter, unsure about the severity of that cold outcome. Again, we said it could be anything from being very cold at one extreme right way through to just be an average winter at the other end of the extreme if things don't go in our favour for cold weather. But we was very clear that we was likely to have the coldest winter since 1213. And also we thought there'd be more snow than any winter since 1213, and we said there was potential within that for a very cold spell of weather, probably after a sudden stratospheric warming. So that was the forecast for the winter that we was working towards. Finally, this is how the winter of 2017-18 looks from a reanalysis perspective. And overall, it is a cold signal. So the blocking isn't quite in the position we had it in, but it is generally a northern blocking winter. So we have above average heights to our north as the broad sort of theme. We have a ridge over in the east and southeast Europe. Remember, one of our central predictions was that southeast and east parts of Europe would probably have a milder winter, especially in the southeast, around the Balkans and Greece. Milder there, compared to a lot of recent winters where the cold has tended to be forced down into southeast Europe. We thought that was unlikely, and that prediction also came off as well. And then an area of below average heights to our east and southeast, and placing us on the cold side of the jet stream. Not a clear-cut cold pattern. For a very clear-cut, proper cold, you know, sort of cold from start to finish, northerly or easterly type winter, you will want the high pressure of the blocking to be centred more towards there, and you want to have this trough deeper and generally to the southeast a little bit more around there. So that's how it would look if you had a very cold winter. And we never expected that. We expected that there would be complications along the way, excuse me, and that is exactly the winter we've had. On, off, a lot of complications, a lot of to and fro, a lot of backwards and forwards. But in the end, coming out with the coldest winter for 5 years. And that is how it shaped up. So overall, I'm very happy, actually, with the winter forecast. We didn't get everything perfect, and it's a very rare forecast that does perfectly predict from start to finish a season. But I think within the round, we've done pretty well. Certainly one of our better efforts this time for the winter of 17-18. So I'm quite happy about it. I'm especially happy with how the analogues held up. Maybe my interpretation of the analogues was a little bit off in terms of those monthly breakdowns. But I think the analogues have held up well. And I think overall a reasonably successful, if not perfect, winter forecast, winter of 2017-18. Right, so that finally and firmly closes the door on winter of 17-18. It's been a really interesting journey that we've been on. And I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed the winter updates that we did starting at the beginning of September and going through to the end of November. It was certainly the most in-depth, exhausting for me set of winter updates that we've ever done at Gaz Over. It's the most ambitious updates. Most of the videos that we did sort of stretched to the 40-50 minute mark, which I know some of you didn't like and didn't really enjoy, but in the end I'm doing these videos primarily for myself, and so I have to produce the content that I am happiest with. And for me, the winter updates were the best updates that I've ever produced, and that was thanks to, in no small part, my good friend James, who came up with all of those wonderful analogues. And I think the result of that is seen through the reasonable success of the winter 17-18 forecast. But it's not really for me to judge, it's for you to judge what you think to the winter forecast. So do let me know what you think about that. And as I say, that firmly and securely closes the door on the winter of 2017-18. So now we're off and running. We produced our spring forecast, of course, a couple of weeks ago. We're off and running into the summer update. So I'm actually going to have the first analogues update for the summer of 2018 tomorrow. So the bandwagon keeps rolling on. It won't be very long at all before we're back, I don't suppose, to winter updates. In fact, I can tell you that the winter updates will begin in the first, I should say, the first Sunday of September, which I think is probably September the 3rd, so pencil that into your diary. Before we get to that, though, there's always, we have to bear in mind, the NAO forecast. I haven't spoken about the NAO forecast, actually, and that's one of the things that was backing us away from a chance of a very cold winter, because the NAO forecast was predicting overall a positive NAO. So that's what we was working with for the winter forecast, by the way. We expected there would be a lot of blocking, which we see within the reanalysis. We was expecting a lot of northern blocking, but we also thought the Atlantic would be set up for westerlies. So a lot of fighting going on, and not a clear-cut, straightforward, cold, blocked winter. And so that's why we pulled away from the chance of a very cold winter, and we had that range of outcomes. So again, I think the NAO forecast, we do that in the summer, that held up quite well also. And I can tell you that the NAO forecast for the winter of 2018-19 is going to be released on Sunday the 1st of July. That's when we'll do the NAO forecast, all being well. So pencil that one into your diary as well. That will begin then the countdown to the winter of 18-19. So 1st of July for the NAO forecast, our first step along the road to winter of 18-19. I think this winter has certainly set things up very, very nicely for next winter. Won't say any more than that, but I think there's going to be a lot of interest. There's always interest in the winter anyway, but I think there's going to be, the way it was signed off on this winter, where it ended, I think there will be a lot of interest for next winter, and I myself am very, very sort of interested to see what's going to happen when we get to these updates that will begin with the NAO forecast on the 1st of July. Right, so that's all of that done and out of the way, and just to say again, big thank you to James for the analogues, big thank you to all of you who followed the journey through the winter updates, and as I say, 1st of July will start all over again. That's all for now. Come back for Weekend Forecast, which will be released later on today, but that's all for now, and thanks for watching.